All right. Well, thanks so much, you guys, for coming. I know it's 5 o'clock, and that's, questionably the end of the workday in a visual effects, animation, and film environment. So I think it's cool that you guys were able to make it. And thank you to Annex Pro for, having me out. I flew all the way from LA to come and hang out with you guys today. But before I jump in, I wanted to get a quick show of hands of who is using Shotgun today. All right, front rows. Everyone in the back has no idea what Shotgun is, or you've heard of it and perhaps haven't used it in a film context or a work context. So I'm going to try and spread a big net today. I'm going to talk a bit about what Shotgun is and what it can do, but Shotgun by itself is a very versatile platform, and so you can do a lot with it. So even beyond what we talk about today, I only have an hour, but feel free to talk to me after. We can set up a phone call, screen share. We can dig through your workflows. Shotgun is often about what you do, not what we can provide. So without further ado, Shotgun was acquired by Autodesk in 2014. Before that was started in 2008 by a guy named Don Parker and a few other good folk, and it was developed in an animation context. And they were given a very wide brief. It was basically taking creating media and saying, take what we do and make it faster. And so traditionally, you come into a film or a media project, and you have a set of disparate people all working together. And ideally, you have a bunch of out-of-the-box tools. So you'll be using Dropbox. If you're in the same place, you have some sticky notes. Perhaps you have a shared drive. You're passing around PDFs and emails. And this sounds great when you're first doing a build-out, and you have a team that's nearby. You're being very reactive. You're like, what can we do to get this done? And this may be a tentpole project, the first thing you're doing to set up your studio. But as you scale beyond that, you end up taking the same information and updating it in multiple places. And very quickly, your workflow tools go from being your benefit to your negative, and they work against you. And so no longer can you be proactive in any way. You're kind of focusing on what's today's delivery, not even next week's or next month's. And so Shotgun kind of came forward with the idea of taking that proactive mindset and bringing it to the forefront. I worked in production for the last 10 years. I was a visual effects producer at actually MPC in Vancouver here for a while. I was the head of production at a Chinese film studio that was formerly Prime Focus China. And I've worked in India, San Diego, and LA, and I've kind of seen every form of production that there is to offer. So I joined Autodesk last year, and since then I've been part of what we call our technical pre-sales team. So I come in and I help you take your workflow and fit it not just into Shotgun, but find scalable opportunities around your workflow. And so kind of look at what I'm showing you here and think about how you do and how it might fit. But again, feel free to chat with me after, and we can talk about the nuance and the specifics of what you actually do. Because there's a lot there. So there are three big pillars that we often lean on. The planning and the collaboration side of Shotgun are big, but also the viewing media and taking it and bringing it forward in review context. So these are things like RV. If you're sitting in a dailies review room, how do you take the time to look at the work, but also create the production team around it to help it grow and scale? So it's not that exciting. Take your time, but for those it kind of simplifies things in a production context. So when you jump in, you have, in this case, everyone logs into Shotgun through a browser. Once you're in a project, you can use the navigation bar to go to a page such as the assets page that we're looking at here. In this context, you're looking at the assets as thumbnails, which may be great if you're a creative supervisor or a lead or an artist. But if you flip around and you're a producer, you probably want to see it in a cell form, kind of like an Excel sheet, a little more hyped up. And as you can see, you have 4 different pipeline steps that go beyond that. In this case, we have an art department, a modeling department, a rigging department, and a texturing department. So these are all the departments that would go through look development on an asset. And then as you move forward, you can see you can change statuses, you can flip an asset to being on hold, and then you can filter around any of the metadata that is attached to a specific asset. Mike, being loud enough? Can you guys hear me in the back? All right, I'm trying to echo. All right. So there's a lot. This is that Shotgun then builds out around. These tables can be taken beyond just an asset, and they can go to any other entity that you would track within a production pipeline, whether it's a version, a shot. We have some studios that take it even beyond, and they track people they're building as an entity within Shotgun. And so a lot of the information that are related. And as we dig deeper, another entity is tasks. And these tasks can fall and roll up into a shot or an asset. And in this case, we have a bunch of the same assets we were just looking at, but we're looking at the schedule underneath them. And so we have the same modeling, texturing, concept tasks that were there before, but now we're kind of looking at it in a Gantt view. And now what you can do with Shotgun, which is exciting, is throw a waterfall past it and say, okay, given this start date and this end date and this duration based on our bid, here's a first pass at our. It's not super exciting when you're looking at just one shot with 4 different tasks, but if you're a client and they're submitting 500 shots, and very quickly you have to give them back a result of, okay, well, based on where we are right now and the number of artists we have, we're looking to deliver at the end of August. Shotgun can kind of be your eyes and ears early on to get that first brushstroke. It may not be your final schedule, but it gets you there very quickly. As you pull back and you go away from the task and the granular level and start to see the bigger picture, say you're a supervisor and you're looking at a specific shot and you want to know everyone associated with that shot. Here is kind of like the Facebook timeline view of a Shotgun page. So you're seeing a shot, you're seeing all of the info that's been uploaded to it, you're seeing the related assets, you're seeing the versions, the tasks, any of the information that you would need on one specific shot is available to you. And so the idea is when you're sitting in a database like this that has so much information, it's very hard to manage it with multiple personalities and multiple UIs. So if you're an artist or you're a lead, you're looking at very different information than if you're a supervisor or a producer. And so Shotgun, regardless of what your current backbone is, the UIs on top are where we find a lot of strength and a lot of power. You go beyond some of that and you step away from the endless metadata that comes into a show or a film or a VR project or whatever it may be. We also have a lot of games clients. And you step into looking at the actual media, whether you're in a review room or dark theater doing the dailies. We have a few different things that come up when viewing those versions. So you have your web browser, which is what we've been looking at so far, where you're just accessing from Chrome, Safari, or Firefox, whatever it may be. We also have a mobile app for your iPhone, or RV, which is your native app. RV was acquired by Autodesk 2012, 2013. My numbers may be completely wrong, but it allows you to take, it's like VLC Media Player on steroids. You can throw whatever you want and view it within RV. And so we built a lot of integrations across Shotgun with RV so you can kind of see your high-res media while also looking at a transcoded QuickTime in the context of your project or in the project management that is happening underneath. Now, if you're an artist and say you're working within Nuke, you don't have any integrations built in, you're just working on your desktop, you have something you want to submit, you can throw it into RV, you play it. Here's the high-res version, so you're looking at the EXR frames, or in this case, it's actually an MP4, and now you want to submit it through Shotgun. So you log into RV with your Shotgun credentials. For every license of Shotgun that you get a free license of RV. You submit it, it kind of comes through checking a bunch of your submissions, your thumbnail, your film strip. Your media comes into your Shotgun site just as it would through the web browser. But then as you jump past, and your supervisor wanted to look at that media on the Shotgun side, you now can see it in, this is our media portal, you're looking at it through a web browser. You jump into your unviewed versions. And so here you'll see that version we submitted. From your web browser, you can hit play. You're looking at that transcoded QuickTime. And here you're seeing the same version. You can pop it open and look at it in the cut. So you're seeing it in the context of the film or the project you're working on. In this case, we're just doing it as a mini cut. So it's just the first 2 shots before, first 2 shots after. And we're pausing. We want to annotate that frame a bit. So Shotgun gives you the annotation tools, then go in, highlight a few things. Again, this is a transcoded QuickTime, so if you're doing QC or color or you're doing final comp, I don't often recommend reviewing in this context, but as you're leading up to those steps, this allows you to really dig in, and if you're using a freelancer, someone who's far away, or someone who's even on another floor, it allows you to quickly go through your dailies, give them the feedback that they need, and then they can see anything else that would be associated with it. So in this case, you're looking at a previous version. They pulled it up in RV. Let's actually jump through something there. I want to come back and touch on it just a moment. There we are. So right here, we switch from looking at the web view into here. And there we go. Okay, so we're grabbing that same version. You guys saw this, but I just wanted to touch on it. We're opening it in RV, which now you're looking at the high-res version, and we're doing the same wipe comparison you would do within Nuke, but you're getting in the context of your review. So, we have a previous version, post version, swiping back and forth. You can also hotkey between frames, things like that. You can go in as pixel deep as you'd like. And there's a lot there on the RV side and the high-res side, even though if you're looking at the transcoded QuickTime, you may not be able to get those same powers. So as you jump beyond that, this is actually my favorite part of the review process. When I first came into Shotgun, I thought it was stupid. I thought having that app was great if you were a traveling supervisor, but I thought it was a novelty. I didn't think it was something that I would actually use. One, it is great if you're a small company and you have a supervisor who is a big part of your bidding process, but he's also a big part of your project process. So yeah, sure, he can jump in and do, or from a shoot or something like that. But where it can also get really exciting is if you have coordinators on set and you're deeply involved with the pre-production of the on-set process. I can't tell you how many times I've taken a Canon 5D, given it to a coordinator to shoot coverage, and they come back with a 500-shot dump, and then we spend the next 3 days sorting all of that, and then it disappears. We never use it again because it's in a folder that's in some dark space of our network, and the artist that actually needs it doesn't see it until 9 months later. What you can do with the iPhone app that's actually a little bit of a workaround is you create a version playlist that has a bunch of empty versions in your pre-production step, and you don't have any names on them. There's no metadata attached. But then as your coordinator goes in, they take photos with their iPhone and they attach them to that version. So it may not have any pertinent metadata right away, but as you move forward in your production process, you can attach the shot that gets created from that script item, or the shot that comes out from that on-set moment, or whatever it may be. And it allows you to have a pertinent connection back to all that film data that you're pulling, rather than just having a big dump of stuff that then a coordinator has to go through in the middle of the week to figure it out. So I thought that was cool. It wasn't something that I recognized right away. So for those of you in the front here who've already been using Shotgun forever, it might be cool. But as we go on, there's also something called the Client Review app. And this is pertinent if you have a client that you want to create a specific review environment for, but they're not next door. A lot of iteration in a film studio is based around getting client feedback. You don't want to have artists waiting when they've already submitted something. But at the same time, perhaps you want another department outside of your Shotgun site to have approval on something, but you don't want to be necessarily paying for their Shotgun license. Your Client Review app allows you to get approvals outside of your standard workflow team. So we see it used sometimes, for example, in the context of game. If you're doing the next Madden game, for example, and the NFL has to approve a bunch of the jerseys that are coming through, you can put that within a Client Review app, send it on the outside, and they get an email, which as you'll see here, you do a submission note, hit OK, and it just shares you a very simple email. You don't necessarily have to have access to a Shotgun site or any experience with Shotgun. This is the environment it creates. So you have your playlist. You have the same view that you would get within the Shotgun Review tab, but you have a very chiseled down version that's going to throw is not going to throw a lot of information at you. You can see who is commenting, and then you can manage all the permissions around that. So you can say, for example, if you have 5 people that you're submitting to. You have an EP, you have a director, you have an on-set supervisor, and then you have an associate producer that gives most of the notes. You can construct your client relationship saying, okay, well, the associate producer perhaps gives a lot of notes, but we don't want them to be the final word here. We've had issues getting through. So you can say, okay, the associate producer can't give notes, but the director can. You don't necessarily want to do that, but it gives you that potential and that capability. At the end of it, it all goes back to your Shotgun site, and it's marked as a client note. So you can discriminate between a client note and an internal note, and you can feed it back to your artist directly, or what happens in a lot of studios is you take the time to do a launch, and you go through what notes you want your team to see. Clients can be incriminating. They can say really bad stuff, and you don't necessarily want your team to see that. But sometimes speed is a bigger priority, and so you can jump to those as well. Now, as a producer, one of the big things that comes up within Shotgun is the information that is within it and how you project it to the outside world. Because a lot of the reporting, a lot of the actionable things that happen within a studio are based on the information that you have within your Shotgun site. So anything that you do within Shotgun can be exported to Excel. So on the data side, any of this can come out to a CSV. The CSV is literally an Excel view of what you're seeing here. So you'll see all of the columns on top come out with the information beneath them, unformatted. It's blank. It is what it is. But at the same time, if you have a lot of information coming in, you can import from a CSV as well. And it's not necessarily just in the context of what you're showing. You can match up a separate column within your CSV to a column within your Shotgun site. It's pretty open-ended. I know this isn't super exciting for those of you in front, but if any of you guys have further questions there's a lot more. You can do color coding. You can put rules in so that something turns red if it's past its due date, or whatever information you build in, you can kind of have it curated in a way that would be beneficial to you. Now, there's also a lot of high-level reporting that you can do within Shotgun. This is an example of a Canvas page, and it has gotten much more exciting than what I'm showing you here. I'll jump into a little later, but If you're working with a remote team, say, and you're doing a Monday morning meeting, this is a nice whiteboard to have to say, okay, guys, we have 29 days until our deadline. It looks here like we have 3 more omits than we did last week. What's going on there? What happened? It allows you to bring the pertinent information to the top. Now, as you look at all of that kind of, look at the entire run through that I've kind of shown you guys, it's very Fisher-Price almost, because the idea for Shotgun was to create something that was scalable across quite a few different studios. But that doesn't speak to a more advanced studio that has gone far beyond this. I'm sure you have your own digital asset management system, you have your own delivery tool, you have your own ingest tool. There's a lot of things that need to plug and play into Shotgun given the information that it stores. So there's a lot that we do to try and empower your teams to do that, whether you have one developer or you have a team of 15. So just recently, to support the smaller guys, if you didn't have a development team and you wanted to leverage the powers of Shotgun Toolkit, we built in a bunch of plug-and-play integrations. So we have standard Maya, Max, Flame integration. Those are Autodesk products. We found a lot of studios use Maya, but we also found, I hope that's not me. We've also found a lot of studios use things that aren't Autodesk products. So Photoshop, Nuke, Mari, Houdini, we built standard integrations for that as well. So that your artist team, if you have a smaller studio of say 20 guys, you don't have a pipeline developer to set up a Shotgun Toolkit instance, you still get all the integrations that you would get without needing the development support. So you have your loader, which takes the context of your Shotgun site and your digital management system or your file tree, and it presents all of that digital management system in the context of your Shotgun site. We have your publisher, which allows you to take information that your artist has created and bring it forward into your Shotgun site. And then we have the Shotgun panel that allows your artist to view everything that's within Shotgun, but within the context of the DCC that they're using. So this is just a quick run through of what that looks like. So you have your Shotgun panel. For example, you're opening Nuke. The work that they do will be connected to a specific project. So you have a bunch of different pull downs here. You can load. This is the Shotgun loader. You see your file tree, but in the context of your Shotgun site. We pop open, I believe we import one of these. But there's a lot there, and the idea is that it keeps your hierarchy connected. And I would argue one of the things that I think it's hard for me to say as a Shotgun technical salesman, out of the box, I wouldn't call Shotgun a digital asset management solution. Shotgun 2.0 really brings forward your digital asset management powers. I think if you decided to use Shotgun today, you would just save through Shotgun, and it would map wherever your files were saved. And from there, you would see it in the context. So the reason I bring that up is we have a lot of studios who come forward and say, hey, we're looking for a digital asset management solution. We hear Shotgun does it. Let's do that. Compared to a Perforce or something else that would put a little more of a strict box around your asset management. And it's kind of like what we talked about today, Richard. But Shotgun does have that. It just involves a little bit of a deeper dive. Now, there's also the new Standalone Publisher App. If you happen to be using a tool that is outside all of this, say you're using Toon Boom, Harmony, you can build an integration like what we showed earlier, where you have the same Shotgun Publisher, the Shotgun Loader, and the panel on the right side. But say you don't want to put in that effort, you can still use the Shotgun Publisher externally here to drag and drop whatever is there, or find it through your Explorer and get the same kind of connectedness where it references where that original file is and allows you to update quite a bit. So as you can see, it kind of references all back to your Shotgun site. This is the backbone where it all lives. And something that they don't always talk about in my kind of demos. Up here, this unique URL is unique. You can copy and paste it, share it with anyone on your Shotgun site. If they have access to your Shotgun site, they can open it and they'll see the exact information that you're seeing. Everything is connected and uploaded to a Shotgun site through any of the loaders or the outside tools.
Do they need client-based software to be able to see that, or is it just straight video files?
No. So, and let me ask a bit deeper. Are you saying, do they need a client-based software? No, just a browser in that context. We don't necessarily support Safari, I believe. It works, but I think it's Chrome and Firefox are our bread and butter. And I think there's a few people have found that out the hard way. But so this is the Shotgun panel. Again, it just shows you everything that's on your Shotgun site, but within the context of the DCC you're in. It's sometimes really shitty as an artist to have to go, oh, I have to go to this browser real quick to see the status of my shot. or anything that's happening thereof. Now, there's a few things I want to show you guys. This is Pipeline Toolkit, just talking about a lot of the support applications that we have. So there's a Python API. We have a bunch of launchers, loaders, and publishers, which I showed you. A lot of engines and apps that you can build on top of them. And a lot of developer tools, specifically a big developer training set that we've just published. It's by a guy named Rafe Motto. He's great. He's a poetry major, so when he does these videos, he's a poet. You know, you want to listen to it. It's great. But as a producer, when I was first stepping into Shotgun, I was very hesitant to dig into the world of Python. And through these videos, I think it's easy to take your production team and ease them into the idea of an action menu item, or the Python API, what an event daemon is, how you can put triggers in place to make your pipeline more seamless. Because I think a lot of the strength in a pipeline is kind of held by the producers. If they can understand the tools that a development team can kind of support, it makes your pipeline a little more automated and thus more scalable. So beyond that, we also have a GitHub repository. There's a Shotgun dev list, and there's a huge community that can support whatever you're trying to do. Oftentimes, you step into a workflow and you are kind of in a vacuum. You're by yourself. But don't feel like you have to reinvent the wheel. Oftentimes, if you're trying to do it, other people are trying to do it as well. So there's a lot of interaction, and I'm happy to facilitate that if you have some big mountain to climb on the production side. But beyond that, recently the product team has started to bring out some really cool things. Some of you guys have seen this before because I've talked with you separately. Perhaps some of you haven't. We have production insights, which are a cooler version of that Canvas page that I showed you. And then we also have calculated fields. Now, these are like a wrench and a screwdriver in a toolbox. By themselves, they're not that exciting. But in what they can build, they get really cool. So this is the production insights board. It takes kind of the high-level information you would see within your Shotgun site and allows you to do more than just some Microsoft project-type graphs. It allows you to see your project as it goes forward over time. Now, I believe this is still in beta, so you'd have to ask me if you want to be able to use these tools. But it allows you to look at, okay, how many deliveries did we do based on these timestamps? You know, what is our efficiency over the last 3 months? And these are things that Shotgun traditionally you'd have to pull out to Excel and then manipulate on your own to see that information. So it's exciting in looking at how your information can create actionable insights, and you can really present something back. Go ahead.
Like from information coming from past projects?
Not even. It can be. Like if you're doing a postmortem, say, and you want to say, okay, what do we do right, what do we do wrong? You can have this trickle up some of your big stuff. But if you're looking even over the last month in the project that you're currently working on, and you're saying, okay, we had 7 finals last week, how, on a day-to-day basis, how did those break out? And yeah, any of the information that would kind of plug into that. These are good questions. I appreciate you asking questions. I know it's an intimidating crowd, but feel free to raise your hand, ask questions. Now, calculatable fields. So traditionally speaking, if you've worked at a larger studio, wherever it may be, you have some really disgusting Excel sheets for managing your resource planning and your bids. They're huge, and they often have a lot of different macros in place, and they get ugly. So what Shotgun often didn't do in the past was help you manage your vendor budgets, your vendor bids, right? How any of that stuff would kind of loop into your Shotgun information. With calculatable fields, I've started to see quite a few of our clients take the other side of that, and they bring more of their financials into Shotgun. They bring more of their bidding information into Shotgun. If you're a client-side unit, for example, and you have 7 different vendors, more often than not, you're getting 7 different bids in 7 different formats. And even if you send them an Excel sheet saying, like, hey, I'd like you to match this bid, 6 months into the show, that first bid that you sent them is still looking very different than another studio that's 6 months into their bid. So what Shotgun allows you to do, and what I've seen done that was really cool, and we're actually going to present the team from Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. Awesome team, Ray and Tom. But they're going to present at SIGGRAPH showing how they set up their client-side unit within Shotgun. But you basically have a live version of your bid, and you manage the permissions around it so only your vendors and the producer in charge of the money can see it. But it allows you to have a live version of the money that's going back and forth, so that you don't have that 2-month gap that can sometimes happen between when they're delivering work and when you're finishing the project, and they say, well, you know we did more work than the bid was allowed for, so like, let's talk about the money. And it allows you to have those conversations earlier, so you're not left with too much red on your budget sheet at the end of the day. So if you guys are coming to SIGGRAPH, I'd love to facilitate that because I think it's going to be a really cool talk. Now, beyond that, we have a lot of clients that work within Jira. I don't know if any of you guys work within Jira. So we've been in the midst of building a Jira integration. It's a bit of a two-way sync, so whatever you update in Shotgun updates within Jira and vice versa. And this sits on top of two of the newest functionalities, our REST API and webhooks. The webhooks are still in progress, but the REST API essentially allows you to take and access Shotgun from any programming language, not just Python. And so this starts to become pertinent with some of the integrations that are perhaps far beyond the toolkit space. We've seen some people do some really interesting integrations with Google Docs, for example. Their entire resource list is based off of a Google Sheet, and they're using the REST API to reference that. And it's kind of totally what you make of it. So I can tell you, yeah, the REST API is cool, but it's just another wrench in the toolbox, and that can have a lot of application. So that is everything Shotgun for now. I do have a lot to talk to you about on the Arnold front. I'm not an Arnold expert, but I have a frame of reference from the production side. And there's some really cool things that we've brought forward in Arnold 5.1 about denoising and things like that. And I'm going to talk about that shortly, but before I do any of you guys have any sweet Shotgun questions? I'm happy to answer. Thank you for asking the questions that you did. Oh, don't worry about it. It was good. I tend to talk really fast, and this is one of my larger audiences. Yeah. Will the graphing beta be available through the API? Yes, I believe so. Really bad for you guys to build something and be like, oh, well, our product team is doing that too, and here it is. So it's nice to talk to us sooner so we can hopefully influence the product for your better. But that was a great question. Anybody else?
Just a small question. It's more, you guys are talking about how it works with Apple products, like for phones and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
What about later on Android?
Mm-hmm.
Moved away from Apple, and I have myself personally.
No, I hear you.
Doing actual Android apps later on.
So there are two things there. One, we developed the iPhone app based on a client request a number of years ago. And that was when we had a studio team that was, I'm sure you guys have worked with studio side VFX supervisors. They're the most demanding people in the world. And so we developed an app so that the studio side supervisors could use it. And then we productized it for the rest of the team, for the rest of our client base. So it was just iPhone based. You can access Shotgun, a web browser within an Android, but it's still not as great. So the workaround that I've used is actually using the client review site, because that has a very workable environment regardless of what mobile app you're on or mobile phone you're on, iOS or Android. But at the moment, I can't speak to any Android app that they're building. That app usually works all right. But that's a very good question. So she asked about the Android app and the iPhone. For those guys who can't hear over there,
leading on from that, is there any chance there'll be a more mobile capable version of Shotgun then?
So the question is, will there be a more mobile capable version of Shotgun? And so one of the things that we did was optimize it for an iPad, because we've had a lot of studios who use iPads in the reviews in the same way you'd use a screen or Wacom tablet. We do have a product team that is kind of 1 foot into the mobile space, 1 foot out. And so I'm sure we will see things go forward, but I can't speak to the specifics there. But that is something that I think is definitely pertinent, because the viewing world is going towards mobile, especially on the production side. So we're trying to manage it as best we can. Anybody else? I saw your hand do like a no, it's all right. I'm sorry, say it again? A Final Cut Pro integration. So we did develop a cut import tool. I don't know if you guys have played with that at all. I was going to show you a bit here, but it's something I don't love. It basically, you take an EDL and it does the work of an assistant editor. So it'll take that offline and cut it up based on the EDL and then bring it in a Shotgun. So in the same way you'd have a producer create a bunch of shot containers within a Shotgun site, in this case you have your editorial team creating those shot containers. And it's similar to like the web and hook that you have if you're using Flame or using Nuke Studio to create your shot containers and then manage your offline after the fact. But that's a very good question. I think most editorial teams ask that because editorial teams are very opinionated. Common denominator is everyone in a visual effects pipeline is very opinionated. But no, it was a good question. Anybody else? I'm going to jump shortly into Arnold stuff. Again, I'm no super rendering expert, but I'd be happy to facilitate your conversations backwards to the rest of the team because I think Arnold is really exciting. One of the things about Arnold 5.1 is GPU rendering. And I finally have the okay to talk about it. I'd used Redshift at a studio that I was at, and we were all excited about Unity and Unreal and everything that's coming forward in the live rendering space and the GPU space. And it's kind of like, well, when is Arnold going to get there? And so what is new in Arnold 5.1? The GPU stuff I'm going to leave to the end so that I know I have your captive audience. But we have two new denoisers that people have been waiting for. One is the optics denoiser, which is the NVIDIA denoiser. It's hardware-based. It's great, but Autodesk denoiser, and it's software-based, part of Arnold. We also added some cool stuff with non-photorealistic rendering or toon shading for you animation houses out there. That can be exciting and cool. And then adaptive sampling, progressive rendering, where it can be most effective, et cetera. Now there's also a lot more there. I'm not going to speak to all of these because I'd love to have some conversations with you guys separately. But again, Marcel de Jong, who sits on my team, he was one of the founding members of Gnomon. He's one of our Arnold experts, and he can dig in much deeper than I can. But traditionally speaking, this is an example of the NVIDIA optics denoiser. A high-quality renderer will always introduce noise at low sampling values, and as you increase sampling values, it also. And so one of the big penalties, or the penalty of quality, is time. And so with denoising, you can dial down your sampling and ideally decrease the time that it takes to render. Where it sometimes runs into issues is in what we call temporal stability. Using, for example, the optics denoiser. This is great if you're in a look context. And so you're doing single frames, or it's not something you necessarily present back to a client in a feature context for final. And so what we're seeing here is it takes the noise, drops, jumps, it's still going. As you move, the noise comes up, and the denoise filter drops on. As you can see, it goes away. But the problem is, in an animated context, given the algorithm behind it, because it's hardware-based, frame has a breakdown. So look, it's going to have some chatter, and it's going to get a little weird. If you want to go towards something in a more feature film context or something that's more final, that's where the Arnold denoiser comes in. It has what we call temporal stability, but it allows you to dig into some of the deeper stuff, like feather, hairs. I'm just going to bounce back so you can see what that was like before and after.
Quick question. This is running like on 1080 or something like that?
Yeah. Yes, this is a 1080. I listed actually.
Not running off.
How did you know? I'm running it off my MacBook. Oh, I believe this is a 1080 GPUs you add. So it's definitely hardware acceleratable, but it also allows you to do denoise passes, or denoising on passes or AOVs with the Arnold denoiser. Here, I would love to show you. Yeah, this one's it. This shows the temporal stability. So on the left side, you'll see you get some noise in the shadows on this side here. But when you throw the denoise on it, all of that falls away. And this one, so this is not denoised. This is denoised. Don't judge my quality too much here. My HDMI cable isn't perfect, but it does start to create some interesting capabilities. And there's a lot more there. Again, Marcel has dug in deep with our product team to kind of bring forth Arnold to a place that it can compete with some of our GPU-esque render competitors. And so I'd love to talk further. But beyond that, the tune shading, I think is really exciting. We've seen a lot of animation pop up in the last 3 years. And if you're looking at grayscale values, or you're looking at tune shading in color, or this is, I think, rendered directly out of Maya. There's no comp work being done. And so you can get some really cool shading examples and things that you wouldn't necessarily think of in a 3D environment. Now, this is comparing Arnold's tune shader to Cinema 4D's. On the right, you have Cinema 4D's tune shader. This took about 8 minutes. On the left, this was Arnold. It took about 10 seconds. Now, I just thought this was super fun. You can get creative with tune shading. In this case, we undersampled the tune shading values, and you kind of get this pixel art look, which is like one of the many knobs that you can twist and turn to get exciting things out of Arnold. And some eerie, non-traditional looks that can sometimes be fun in differentiating yourself. Now, Arnold for GPU. The idea that I think our product team came in with was we want to match the look that we generate on a CPU, but have it be sitting on top of the graphics card. We want to allow you to mix frames so they can be interchangeable. I think that is it's a hard task. That it's something that it's like that never-ending graph. You'll be trying, you come really, really close, but maybe never approach. But that's the goal. As of now, it is NVIDIA only. Let's see if it plays. Yeah, it's playing. It scales well when using multiple GPUs. You can install Arnold and installs both GPU and CPU. So it's the kind of thing that when you're in Maya, you just select whether you want it to render on GPU or CPU. And the goal, again, is to support all the features we offer on CPU and GPU. All the rage. Well, I know it's all the rage. I speak like a ignorant producer. But if you'd like to talk further about it, there's a lot there, whether it's getting involved in the beta or anything beyond that. I'm happy to chat. That's kind of it. This is the sweet Autodesk logo to finish it off. But if anyone has any questions, thanks so much. And don't be afraid to talk to me. I came from LA. This was kind of my night to be here. I came in early to see some friends because I used to live here, but I really, really love to connect with you guys. Not even in a business context. Visual effects in LA kind of isn't what it used to be, whereas in Vancouver it's like a happy, fun place. So I'd love to talk further if you guys are up to it. But again, thanks so much, you guys.
Thanks very much for coming in. I know you got a round of applause, but we'll give you another one.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Karen.